Hey everybody, Tom Bullington here with Coldwell Banker Realty. Hope you're doing well. This is kind of a new experiment, things I'm going to be doing on this channel, and wanted to just again introduce myself to you. And if you haven't been here on the channel recently, welcome. We have about 120, subscribers so far. Obviously, we're trying to look to expand that. So if you haven't subscribed yet, if you haven't liked one of my videos, please feel free to do so. You can like, subscribe, make comments, ask me any questions you might have, and be more than happy to help you out with the answers. So what we're going to do and try to do this every day is do a video to talk about real estate, talk about kind of where the industry is at right now, and kind of tell you about what I'm doing in my career and my profession. I've been doing this about 8 years. Just about exactly 8 years licensed as a realtor in Minnesota. I think it's about 4 or 5 years in Wisconsin as well. So Minnesota and Wisconsin licensed. We have to go through, if you didn't know, we have to go through um, kind of the biggest part of the education to become a realtor is if you're thinking about being a realtor, if you know of anyone who's thinking about becoming a realtor, it's it's quite a lot of work to get your license, actually. You do have to go through some training, a lot of training. There are tests that you have to take. You can take it online or you can take it in person. You can hire a company like Kaplan, for example, and get credits that way. And then you take a preliminary test, and then you can do that online or in person. And then what you do is you go to a proctored exam, both in Minnesota and Wisconsin. That's computerized. You sit in a big room full of people. You have the noise canceling headphones on, and you sit there and you take the test based on. So you take a National Association of Realtors test, and then you also take the State Association of Realtors test. So in Minnesota, uh, we all belong to various MLS groups, multiple listing service groups. Mine is the St. Paul Area Association of Realtors. My brokerage belongs to that. In Wisconsin, you are either licensed as a realtor through a brokerage over there if you're primarily in Wisconsin licensed, or what you do is you go over and you become a um, just basically like a generic, which is what I am. I don't belong to a brokerage over there. So if I sell something in Wisconsin, it's the same as if I sell it in Minnesota, except the rules are different. There's some nuances as far as how you sell homes in Wisconsin versus in Minnesota, how you interact with your clients, and all sorts of things like that. I can do a video about that at some point, but um, I prefer the Minnesota method. I prefer Minnesota's paperwork. It just seems to be a lot more clear. It's easier to understand. It's laid out better, so it's not as confusing. The Wisconsin stuff is a little bit. It looks a little bit dated to me. No offense to Wisconsin, but it looks a little bit dated, just the way it's laid out, and it's not necessarily the best um, laid out or constructed paperwork. There's some weird rule differences, and we can talk about that. How you interact with clients and uh, certain nomenclature as far as what you're called and what a client is called and what you can do and not do in Wisconsin versus Minnesota. But that's a whole nother video. Anyway, but I'm licensed in both states, so I passed those tests. And like I mentioned, then when you get a license, you go and you essentially pick a licensee. So I'm with Coldwell Banker. I started out with Keller Williams, and then I was there for 3 years, and I went to InMotion Realty here in Hastings, which is the city in which I live. and that was a smaller boutique realtor company brokerage, and that was for about 3 years as well. And I've been with Coldwell Banker for about 2 years now, so adding up to 8 years. Uh, my favorite so far, by far, has been Coldwell Banker. I've really enjoyed it. I think it has a lot of resources. It is um, my brokerage is based in Lakeville, Minnesota, South Metro, which is where I've done most of my work. Most of my sales have been in the South Metro. Um, there's a few other communities I've been in, but primarily it's South Metro, south of the river, um, here in the South Metro of Twin Cities, Minnesota. So um, that's kind of what you do. So, like that. So I'm trying to do this backwards. So my brokerage number right there is 952-432-7200. And then my individual phone number where I prefer you to call me is the 402-6356, area code 651. That's where my phone rings. So please call me on that if you have questions, things like that. I'm very open to uh, questions, comments. If you are not even in the market and you have a question about real estate, or you know someone who's getting into the business, or if you have a friend or a family member who's thinking of buying or selling, um, please give me a call and I can help them out. Even if you don't end up using me as a realtor, um, I don't necessarily care. Of course, I would love to have your business, but I'm not doing this just to get your business. I'm doing this to hopefully give you a little bit of detail, a little bit of information about the real estate market, um, and the way things are going right now. So, having said that, I am going to check in on, I'm just going to, the camera's going to stay on. I'm just not going to be able to see my handsome face here for a minute. And I am going to look at the latest mortgage rates, 30-year fixed mortgage rates for um, the nation right now. We're coming in at 7.08% for a 30-year fixed conventional loan. For a 15-year fixed conventional loan, we're at 6.51. 30-year FHA at 6.45, and then a 30-year VA 6.47. Um, as I always say on my videos, that is, it is really depending on your particular situation. So if you have uh, a poor credit rating, or you have issues with employment continuity, things like that. Um, if you have not gone out and bought a car recently, which is going to ding your credit rating, all sorts of things like that. Basically, the interest rate that you're going to receive at whether it's your bank or your credit union, or if you go with a mortgage company that handles a lot of different companies' products for mortgages, um, it's going to depend the rate that you're going to get is going to depend greatly on how much what your background is, as far as your employment background, your credit rating, all sorts of things like that. Is your spouse going to be on the title as well, on the loan as well? Um, could that help or hurt you? There's a number of clients I've worked with where the spouse is definitely not on the title because they have a poor credit rating, and the other spouse has um, a better credit rating. So it's going to help them get a better loan, help them get a better interest rate. But also, if you don't have the combined income for both people, you might be able to borrow less, so you wouldn't be able to afford a home. So talk with your lender, and that's really what I emphasize every single time I do a video, pretty much, is if you are thinking of buying a home right now, even if you own a home or not, if you're thinking of buying a home, talk to a lender first. Talk to a bank, talk to a credit union, talk to a mortgage professional that's out there, all sorts of companies that do that. talk with them and get a estimate of they'll pull all your papers, they'll get your credit rating figured out, and then their employment history, all of that, see what your bills are, things like that. How able are you to pay a new mortgage payment versus what you're paying now? Or if you're renting, is it your first home ever? First time home buyer? You might be going with an FHA loan. Are you a veteran? You might go with a VA loan. Definitely great rates there. Um, if you are going for, if you have a little bit more money to put down, 20% down, you're going to avoid the mortgage insurance. If it's a situation where you have a lot more down, or you're sitting on nice nest egg, you might have a 15-year fixed conventional loan, which is going to have you pay off your home in 15 years, which is outstanding. If you can do that, that's great. That's probably best case scenario. So, um, for FHA, it's 3.5%. For VA, it's 0% down that you're going to have to put down. For FHA, it's 3.5% down. So typically, if you're trying to do a conventional loan, we like to have it be at least 10, but if not 20% down to avoid that mortgage insurance. There's all sorts of variables, and it really depends on your situation and what your lender thinks you can afford and what you can afford as well. Um, are you going to have a baby? Are you going to have a job change? Something like this, where you're going to have a possibility of getting more income in the next year or two. Um, do you want to get into a home and then hopefully refinance in 2 or 3 years? Hopefully the rates are going to go down. Do you want an adjustable rate mortgage? All sorts of questions. That lending professional is going to be able to help you. So once you have all that information, once you have that figured out, all your ducks are in a row as far as a mortgage goes, then you can call a realtor. I would love you to call me, but if you have someone that you work with, someone that you like, it's a family member, whoever it is, again, I just want you to be satisfied with your experience as a realtor, because the industry itself, there's probably some realtors out there that might not be the most ethical or might not be the most experienced. I try to pride myself on being as ethical as I possibly can be. If I have any sort of issue where there's a conflict of interest, or if I'm representing someone who's buying a home and it's one of my listings, I step back from the negotiations and I don't even negotiate. I'm not going to negotiate with myself in good. Um, it just is not a good idea. So I will always hand probably my buyer off to someone who can negotiate on their behalf with me, who's representing the seller. If I'm representing a buyer, um, I'm going to represent the buyer and not the seller. So lots of things like that. That's when you talk about ethics in real estate, that's one of the big things. Don't compete with yourself. Don't negotiate with yourself, because you'll always win and your client is not the primary focus. That's the wrong way to do things. Your client is always your responsibility. The number one thing that you want is to do your fiduciary responsibility to your client. So that's why ethics is important. Someone that you trust, someone that you can get along with. If there's a realtor out there that you really get along with and you trust them, please use them. You don't have to use me. Even if you're watching this video, even if you know me personally, if you have someone that you trust, that you've really worked with in the past, that you bond with, please use them. I want you to have the best experience possible with real estate. I'll be fine. I would obviously love to work with you, but um, in the long scheme of things, I want you to be happy. And I've had that situation happen where someone has used another individual as a realtor, and then maybe about 2 or 3 years later, they're going to sell again, and they call me and they have a better experience, hopefully with me, than the previous person. That happens. So if you're in a situation where you need to use someone, or you feel obligated to use someone, that's absolutely fine. I would at least like to have an appointment with you and talk through what I would do, my philosophy. Um, I like the ability to compete with other realtors for business. I think it keeps me honest. I think it helps me understand what people are attracted to in in a realtor. Um, I don't want it to be easy for me. I want it to be easy for the client. I'm not in this to make or break. I have to get the client. I have to get this listing. I don't want to be in that position, and I try not to be in that position. My main focus is on the client or the prospective client and making sure that they are pleased with what I'm doing. So that just kind of gives you a background on where my mind is at with all of these things. Um, I've done over 105 transactions. I've done um, lower cost homes. I sold a home here a few months ago for $135,000. I've also sold homes upwards of eight or $900,000. So it's really all over the map. I've sold townhomes and condos, um, large six-bedroom homes, six-bedroom, four-bathroom homes, um, new construction, all the way back to a home here in Hastings that was built in 1860 before the Lincoln administration. Okay. So I mean there's a wide range of homes that I have sold, and I'm comfortable doing um, all sorts of negotiations, working with other realtors to try to find a, a good happy medium in a negotiation. So that's kind of how I approach the business. It's not aggressive. It's not um, sharp edged, which I think is in some cases the way some agents are. Cutthroat. I would use that term. Um, I'm not that way. So if you want the cutthroat guy on HGTV or on A&E that's out to get a deal no matter what, not me. Not me. I'm not that guy. Um, so if you have questions along the way about how I work, your particular situation, I want you to call me. Feel free to call me. Feel comfortable to call me. 651, here we go. 651 402 6356. More than happy to talk with you about my philosophy. So this home behind me here, it's not actually behind me, um, is 7443 Jordan Avenue in Cottage Grove. Now, I had it on the market for 4 days and it sold above list price. It's $465,000. My client was out of town while I was doing showings. We had four showings, five showings, and the first offer we got above list price, good closing time, as far scheduling that in next month in February. We got the inspection went through. Inspection was great. We just got the appraisal back today. The appraisal came in at price. That was fine. So we're doing good. And people really enjoyed the house. It just didn't have anything wrong at all. It was a one of those homes where the owner had been in it for a number of years, over 10 years. And as they lived in it, they fixed things and they upgraded things and they renovated and they refurbished and painted and did a lot of things along the way. New roof, all of these things, furnace, roof, kitchen, rehab, carpeting, flooring, all of these things. So by the time it came for her to sell, we had a perfect house, and it was um, basically a new construction home. It was just so nicely put together. So, and that's your dream client, right? That's your dream client where you come into a home where everything's picked up for the showings. It's crisp, it's clean. She did some painting. Uh, she did a lot of cleaning. She did some very nice staging to it. Had her family in, moved some things out. They had a storage container, all sorts of things to get the house ready for showings, and she did it. So she went out of town for 5 days, and on day five, four and a half basically, I called her and she was at the airport coming back, and I said, "You've got an offer. Here it is." And she accepted it over her phone, which you can do. And by the time she got back to town, her house was sold. We did the inspection about 3 days later, 3 days later, and it was fine. It was perfect. Those are those are the situations where um, things go well. When things don't go so well, I'm very experienced in that as well. So I try to, as much as I can, um, anticipate things that might be an issue. So if it's an older home and it needs to be fixed up in some way, we try to anticipate those things even before we put it on the market. We'll try to get something fixed up or replaced or whatever it might be. Or I'm very much of the philosophy of I don't try to tell my clients to paint too much or to do brand new flooring or to do all new lighting or whatever it is, a lot of expense out of pocket before they even sell it. Because whoever it is that comes in, Mr. and Mrs. Smith comes in, they may want a whole nother paint color, or they may want different flooring or different lighting or things like that. If something's in ill repair or something's dangerous or health and safety related, then yes, I will advise my client to fix it up before we put it on the market. Or if it's something like a cracked window or something, what I'll say is to the buyer's agent is I'll say, we know that's a cracked window. We're going to get it fixed before closing. And that's never really been an issue. So um, as long as people don't have surprises, you don't blindside people, and you are very uh, out in the open with the frailties of a listing or things that might need to get fixed up. If you're feeling like maybe your client can move a little bit on price, again, what I try to do, my philosophy is I try to price conservatively. I don't go out there and try to buy a listing, which is basically what agents will do, and they will overprice a home in the hopes that they will get a higher commission. Now, in my experience, when I have a home priced relatively conservatively to start out, uh, my client will end up getting more money at the end of the day than they would if I was to price aggressively too high. First of all, it's not going to appraise if it's priced too high. So they're going to be disappointed after the appraisal comes down. So they're going to have to give up 5 grand or whatever it is, 10 grand um, after the appraisal's done. So why go through all of that trauma? What I try to do is say, okay, we're going to price it conservatively. If you price it conservatively about where it's maybe a little bit below where some other agents might price it, you're going to get more showings, you're going to get more offers, and you might get a bidding war, and you might have a situation where there's multiple offers. That's the situation you want because it's a highly sought after property. You're going to have possible escalation clauses put in there. You're going to have multiple offers. They're going to keep upping the offer price. And I've seen it time and time again. When you price it conservatively, you're going to end up getting your seller more money than they would have if you had put it all the way up here, and then you have to decrease the price. You have to lower the price, and no one's happy with that except the buyer. Uh, so why waste the time of aggressively pricing it too high? And I know agents will try to jack it up as much as possible, but you're not going to get as many showings. You're not going to get the offers, and then it might not even appraise. It probably won't even appraise if it's like $10,000 over where it should be. There's ways of telling how a home should be priced. Comparable sales, just the market in general. Uh, you look a mile or two around the property that you're selling. You look at the comps over the last 3 to 6 months, um, and then you just look at the market itself. Maybe the market has slowed down a little bit, or the time of year is a little bit off, or maybe the square feet are not there, or there's not an extra bedroom or a bathroom in your property versus the other one that sold. All these things you have to think as the consumer and figure out, oh, it's not going to sell for 500, it's only going to sell for 480. Even though the house down the street sold for 500, it's got another bedroom and a bathroom, or it has a big garage, or whatever it is, it's a corner lot, or whatever might be a little more pricey. These are all factors in there. Because the home right next door sold for a certain price does not mean that your listing is going to sell for that price. Two different products, two different homes. So, um, having the experience, being able to walk through all of these scenarios with your client, that's what having experience does, and that's what having um, a philosophy of helping your client as much as possible. That's where it pays off, and that's where I've been successful. So, um, again, love to talk to you. If you just have questions, I'm going to try to just essentially just kind of go through my day, go through what it's like to be a realtor, um, and talk over these things. There's so many issues to discuss. And this is going to be unedited. So, we're just going to just roll it, and it's going to be an unedited video every time. So I hope you enjoy it. Um, Rather than trying to guess what you want to hear, I'm just going to talk about things that are coming up, things I've experienced lately. If you have questions, if you have something that you want me to talk about, if you have a question, you can email me at tom.bullington@cbrealty.com. You can call me 651-402-6356, um, and or text me. Let me know what you want to hear. If you've watched this video to this point, thank you. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe the video. That really helps. Tell people about me. If you are not in the market right now to buy or sell in the South Metro of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and you know someone who is, please show them this channel. Uh, Show them my website at tombullingtonhomes.com. Sign up. You can do a search for homes that you might be interested in, and we're going to really do some new and innovative things this year to bring you more information to hopefully help you land a house that you really want. Help as many people as possible with real estate issues this year. So again, Tom Bullington, 651-402-6356, on the web at tombullingtonhomes.com, and have a great day.